Now let's visit the procedure for creating a production isometric drawing. The production ISO is what you will use for a more permanent option in your project. So just as with a quick ISO, we're going to go to our ISO tab and we're going to click on Production ISO. Of course, if you care to use the command line, your command would be Plant Product Production ISO. So let's go ahead and invoke that. And you're going to have some options in your dialog box. So let's take a look at one that says display lines. So in your display lines, you're going to have drawing, project, and filter. So the drawing is going to list line numbers that are in the drawing. Project is going to list all the line numbers in the project. And filter lists line numbers in the current selection set. So if you take a look at that, that's your drawing option. And this is your project option. And this one right here is going to be your filtered option. So we also have some output settings as well, and that's going to specify the isometric output. Your ISO style specifies the ISO style to use. You can create and modify ISO styles in your project setup. Save ISOs to specifies the folders where isometric drawings are created. Create DWF. This is going to specify whether to create a DWF file for the isometric. Once again, the DWF files for those people who will be using design review in lieu of having a copy of Plant 3D, and those are people that are usually only reviewing the drawings and not actually doing any design work on them. Override if existing. If selected, these any existing isometric drawings with the same number are overwritten. If clear, new isometric drawings are renamed. So this is really handy if you're going to redo a drawing and you don't want a lot of drawings to accumulate here. Revision number, this allows you to set a revision number which can display in your title block. And then, of course, you're going to have some advanced options that you can also use for your ISO creations. Now we also have some advanced options. If we push this button right here, you'll see that you have export settings. You have some export settings that you can create PCF on ISO creation. That's creating pipe component files, the PCFs, when creating ISO drawings. Kind of do that automatically. You have export tables on here. And the export tables on ISO creation, that can create data files from the tables that are created. But remember, these tables must exist in the title block to be exported. You have a report export format, and this is going to set the format of the table data. So if you look like, you can drop down here and you can see if it's going to be a text form or one of your Excel forms. Now over here you have some advanced settings and overrides. We have ignore breakpoint from the model, which is going to ignore any breakpoints that you put in. If you ignore ISO annotations from the model, of course, obviously it's what it's going to do. It's going to ignore any ISO messages and location markers. You have reverse ISO start and end points. And what that's going to do is going to assume the opposite flow direction for the line to reverse sheet order. So the flow direction is not a property in the model. Arbitrary but consistent flow direction is assumed that you can reverse. And then the last one that you have here is override default north arrow direction, and that's going to ignore the direction that is specified in the title block. Now you have a drawing congestion splitting control here that you can check off here if you want to create them automatically. But if you adjust the congestion splitting for the ISO, it's going to give you a preference of the number of objects allowed in an ISO drawing sheet compared to the number of sheets generated. So what that means is setting a high congestion level will result in fewer sheets with more objects on each sheet, and the maximum setting will force ISOs onto one sheet if possible. You can override ISO splitting, and if you select this option here, it's going to split ISO when the property changes. So this changes sheets when any of the specified model property values change. You can also override the location. Your override location controls are down here. The override location, you have an offset location which adds X and Y values to objects in the isometric drawing. For this one, you can enter negative values, for example, like a negative 10,000. Now you also have object rotation here. And the object rotation is going to rotate objects in the isometric drawing. Once again, you can enter negative values, for example, -90. And the offset rotation is calculated before the offset location is. So once you do all that and you go ahead and finish your advanced options that you want, and you have a line number selected that you want to do your isometric drawing on, you go ahead and click Create. And once you click Create, this is going to be processed in the background. You're going to be notified when it's complete, and you're going to get a list of the drawings generated as well as any warnings if you have any. So once you get the message that's going to come up, it's going to show you where the drawings are housed, and then you're also allowed to open them. So if we take a look at this message in the bottom right, you'll see that the isometric creation is complete, and all isometrics did create successfully, so we had no errors. And if we click here, we'll get details about the isometric. And it tells you that it is production isometric, tells you how many are created, gives you all the pertinent information about it, no errors, no warnings. Here are the 3 isometrics that were created. And then if you want to see one of those, all you have to do is click on it, and then you can view the items in the title block, go ahead, print it out, send it out, whatever you need to do with it. And that's about what's contained in creating a production isometric drawing.